Perfect. So thanks for the invite. My name is Oscar Alvarado. I am a solution engineer at Microsoft. The name recently changed during this new fiscal calendar year, but I support data and AI solutions for Microsoft in the healthcare domain. I have been with Microsoft during the last couple of years, and I have about 25 years of experience implementing business analytics and data and AI solutions within the analytics umbrella with data warehousing, with multiple tools, and with IBM and also with Microsoft. Happy to be here. And today we are going to be talking about agentic AI apps and the unified data state in Microsoft Fabric. I know many of you have a specific background in Power BI, so it's going to be very similar because we are going to be using the same infrastructure for Microsoft Fabric, and you will be able to start collecting data from multiple sources and being able to create agents that will be helping you to analyze data from your organizational data state and being able to produce insights from that data. Once the data is trusted and organized in a unified state from Microsoft Fabric, you will be able to interact with that data using Azure AI Foundry and being able to orchestrate agents and publish those agents into a web page or any other applications within the Microsoft umbrella, and being able to ask questions in natural language to your data, which is the cool stuff. Any particular questions or requirements that you have or expectations for the meeting based on those topics that we are going to cover?
Nothing in the chat so far.
Nope. Awesome. So this is the agenda for today during the next couple of hours, right? So I'm going to introduce our point of view in the current data and AI landscape at Microsoft and how you can drive AI innovation using Microsoft Fabric and the Azure solutions together, right? So we are going to provide some examples on how customers are using it right now. And I also want to show a live demo so you see the theory in action and being able to start thinking about ideas and how you can leverage this technology across your enterprise, right? So that's the main objective for today. I'm going to talk about Fabric in general, Azure AI Foundry, then the demo, and then some resources that I will post in the chat so you can get started with demos, tutorials, and basic documentation about that. So talking about the current landscape with data and AI, I think it's important to set the foundation for this topic because, as you already know, AI has been in the market during the last 3 to 4 years, and it got a lot of attention with ChatGPT. But this is coming. We had a session like 2 months ago with the Microsoft Office and one of your colleagues, Cecilia, understanding AI and the different capabilities. So I think it's the foundation for that. So many people think that AI is just like magic and just to retrieve information, right? That's the typical retrieval augmented generation AI that we have used with ChatGPT. But that's the beginning, right? That was the beginning 2-3 years ago to get the foundation. But now in this presentation, we are going to talk about the next era of AI, which we call the agentic AI, right? So it's the beginning of a new era in artificial intelligence and one new era where AI moves beyond a simple response to become truly autonomous. So in this agentic world, what we want to do is leverage the foundation with large language models and create agents or specific tasks that will be autonomous and that can think, plan, and react to specific goals based on your requirements. And that's the new era of agentic AI. So for many years, 2-3 years, the AI models have been incredible at processing information, responding to questions based on large language models, as I said. But what if they could do more, right? We want the agents and the AI to actually think and react based on the input from the user and based on the live information that is going on. So that's the true purpose of the agentic AI world. So we have agents that can interact with each other and being able to get the insights that are needed to get the context. And that's why you get new protocols in the market like MCP, Model Context Protocol, A2A, which is agent to agent, because we need to start having conversation between agents to get this information going forward and getting the sense of the task, the information, and the orchestration that is needed. And that's basically the infrastructure that we provide at Microsoft with Data Fabric for the data foundation, because as you know, AI is nothing without a solid data foundation. So you need to have a clean, solid data foundation to leverage all these data assets, specifically when you are creating agents that are consolidating data, retrieving data from your own data. Because one thing is asking GPT or Copilot about the web data, something that you can find worldwide, but other thing is grounding the data with your corporate information to make sense of the best asset which is available in your organization, which is your own databases and all the years of information that people, IT, and the business have put together to develop a solid foundation for your business, the data that is trusted to leverage the AI in a better world, right? So during this presentation, I'm going to be talking about the two important components that we offer in my team, which is the Microsoft Fabric data agents and Azure AI Foundry, which will combine your data in a single repository with OneLake, and it's going to be able to crawl data from multiple sources via mirroring. So it's not only the Microsoft infrastructure or ecosystem, because we can collect data without data movement from multiple clouds, as you will see in other slides that I have going forward. But it's the foundation of this new era, being able to collect the data from multiple assets, trust the data, have data governance, and being able to organize the data in a better way so the business user can trust the information that is being retrieved by these AI agents, right? So one of those two characteristics that we have seen in the market is that 50% of the companies are using Gen AI, which is the typical Chat GPT, Copilots, etc. But they will be creating new projects and pilots, 50% of those companies by 2027. So there is a huge interest in companies of using this technology. So you are at the right moment, right place, because this is one of the key features that any person, any developer in IT wants to learn, because this is what is hot in the market, right? Everyone wants to learn AI, Microsoft tools, and how to integrate with multiple agents at the same time. So this is what is super hot in the market for professional development, right? And 64% of those organizations will struggle because they are not able to operate. They are lagging behind because they don't have a solid foundation in AI and the data. And that's the previous information I mentioned to you, that the most important thing is to have a solid foundation for people to trust the data that is being produced by these data agents. Any questions so far? What type of use cases are you looking for, or do you have any specific use cases or challenges that you are facing with your own data sets where you work or on a personal basis? Are you using Copilot, ChatGPT? What tools have you used in the past to retrieve data? Anyone?
ChatGPT, Natasha.
ChatGPT?
Copilot.
Cool. Pilot? Cool. So
writing.
Cool. So giving more feedback and more information about agentic AI, so we have the solid foundation. As I mentioned before, the current generative AI methods are likely like creating a step-by-step manual for AI to automate something and execute something. But an agent, the difference between ChatGPT and an agent that you can create with OpenAI or Azure OpenAI is that these agents can plan, adapt to new information, and that's the key. They can execute tasks independently and super intelligently, right? Making them capable of handling complex dynamic environments for decision making, that's the key. Being able to use that information in a secure and trusted way to get the information that is needed to achieve something or a specific use case. So this slide is talking about what we had yesterday, what we had today, and where we are going forward. Yesterday, as you know, RPA has been available during the last 30 to 40 years. They are just trying to complete something that is repetitive, something that can be done without human intervention. That's available since the 90s or early 2000s. But now we are introducing a reactive, single purpose, and simplistic AI automation by using agents. So today we can use a simple agent. A human supervisor can take action and being able to take an intelligent action after that. But what happens when you start creating multiple agents globally or in your company, right? You need to have the orchestration. So agent 1 can talk to agent 2 or agent 3 and working as a team based on the user input. So that's the agentic AI, being able to collaborate, have the same protocols, have the same syntax when they talk to each other. Because this could be an agent built in Microsoft, it could be another agent built in Google Cloud, Gemini, or any other competitor or any other AI provider. But the important thing is to have a common platform that is going to orchestrate and being able to understand the requirements that are being passed through those specific agents, and also being able to collaborate with each other with complex tasks. That's the main objective of this solution architecture. An example of what an agent can do working in a multi-agent strategy is this example that you see here on the screen, where you have a finance manager, right, Ellie? She has implemented multiple agents. She has more than 5 agents, but the beauty of this is that agents can be working 24/7. So, right, it's not a human, but you have agents retrieving data, taking action, and being able to communicate with each other for a common task. In this real-time finance experience, this person creating multiple agents. One of them is a fraud detection agent, which is going to scan thousands of transactions and is going to flag when you have a fraudulent transaction, right? It's going to compare the transaction against historical data. So hence, that the importance is that you are connecting to a trusted environment of the data. So that's the agent collecting the data from this transactional system. Then you can have another agent called the risk management agent that, based on the information that was already collected, they can do, for example, cross-checks for vendors' activity, analyze the supply chain of the system, and then run simulations to determine if there is an exposure, right, for the financial system. It's going to determine the probability of fraud and then escalate that to a specific person, in this case, the CFO. Then you have a human intervention to the CFO that is going to evaluate the results from the second agent and is going to see the AI-generated real-time data to score and analyze the probability of fraud for that particular set of transactions. Once that process is done, then you can have another AI agent to do the risk management for updates for the company-wide parameters, and you can lower spending thresholds for a specific vendor or accounts. And then another investment agent is going to notify of all the changes and analyzing the risk and optimizing the capital allocation to ensure that the operations continue working, right? So this is just a typical example of a complex scenario where you need data that has to be trusted, and multiple agents collaborating with each other to retrieve data, take action, do functions, and update systems in real time, enabling a transactional system to operate with some intervention of humans, but all the other tasks can be elaborated by a 24/7 agent that is going to be running all the time. And as you know, credit card transactions, for example, or medical devices, something in the hospital, if you go to the healthcare industry as well, we have systems that are running 24/7, and we need agents running the data and taking decisions in real time. So that's the key use case that we can solve with agentic AI. Any questions so far about the typical use case? No?
No
Cool.
question, but Romil shared that he's using ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini.
Awesome. Yeah, great technology. Yeah, that's the technology that came 2-3 years ago. that's the typical retrieval information when you're searching for something or generating text. Now we are talking about the next era, agentic AI, where you start creating your own agents. So remember the Bill Gates era? Bill Gates created a factory of development of software. You had applications all over the place in Windows, over the cloud, etc. But now the new technology and the new edge is to start creating agents, and then you will start seeing that you can collect one agent here. So you will have companies creating agents or actual enterprises creating agents so they can share all this knowledge and all these activities with each other, so they don't have to repeat all these processes, all the coding, because it's something that is trusted. You can rely on someone else, and then you have the communication protocols to start retrieving data from multiple data assets. And I have talked with customers, and sometimes many of them are already treating data agents as people. So people that they can hire, but instead of hiring a person, they are hiring an agent. So they have a user ID, they have an email like any other person, but they are taking those specific agents and the actions as an HR process because it's so important. It's like responding to a human intervention, but instead of being a person, it's an agent that is doing that action. So you will start seeing behaviors like that in HR because they need to control security processes, who is doing what, at what times, if it's not 24/7, at what time of the day, et cetera, et cetera. So you will see a more HR related analysis for your data agents or any type of agent going forward. So you have go ahead.
Oscar, Isabel has a question.
Go ahead, Isabel.
Hi, Oscar. Great information.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of curious about and the business case that you mentioned. There is multiple AI agents. How does that legal aspects on AI? I don't know if you're the AI agents. I mean, can this, as you mentioned, survive through legal, for example?
Yeah, that will depend on the legal characteristics of any industry, right? So I work in healthcare, so you have legal specific laws about AI for the healthcare. So, for example, if you have personal identifiable information or information that it's only accessible to the patient, right? The agent has to respect the privacy of the patient, and that's the same with financial institutions as well. Everything that is private, the agent in theory should be able to not have access to the private data. So we have mechanisms and security in place to make sure that those laws, the requirements, and legal obligations are put in place. And that's something that we are going to talk about, the Azure AI platform, because you need a platform that not only has the technology, the models, the chat GPTs, GPT-4, GPT-4 mini, not only the technology, the data centers, the large language models, but the policies and the security and governance that needs to be in place to make this reliable and secure transaction.
And in this environment or in these use cases, it's only through Microsoft. I mean, would it work with other, I guess, vendors, or is it just in the Microsoft environment?
Microsoft is open to many technologies. As you will see in the demo, I will show you all the different technologies that are available. So yeah, the main purpose of using AI Foundry is that it's an open technology for multiple models, multiple vendors, that for any developer to start using and leveraging. Yes,
Great.
Thanks. Yeah, no problem. But at the same time, you need the solid data foundation and the intelligence layer, as you were asking, with the AI development tools and platforms to leverage those infrastructures in place, right? So that's the data landscape, and that's the AI development landscape, right? So we are going to share these slides, so I'm not going to go in every detail because I want to leave time for the demo. But talking about the architecture, right? So this is what you get with the interaction of Fabric and also with AI Foundry, right? So this is the overall objective. A business will need a unified, intelligent data state built on an open and governed data lakehouse or data warehouse infrastructure. Going back to your question, right? Something that is open to multiple protocols and being able to share information across multiple technologies. Because as you know, with Microsoft Fabric, you can connect and virtualize data from multiple sources. In this example here, we are connecting to Dataverse, which is Microsoft related, but at the same time, we can connect to Amazon S3 buckets, Google, Azure Data Lake Storage. So we provide the mechanisms for you to collect data from multiple sources without copying the data multiple times. We don't have to copy the data because we are doing a mirroring, meaning, or a shortcut in some cases where you don't need to copy the data. You're just referencing that to the other cloud provider. We also have support for Databricks, etc., and other data providers. You have a question?
Yeah, no, I was kind of echoing what you're saying, that so pretty much based on what I'm seeing, so there is like an API connection and the lake will take all the data, right? And the agents are developed within the Azure.
Correct. Yes, and you will see that in the next slides. Yes. Gotcha. I am going to give you the details of all the technology interactions between Fabric and AI Foundry. Yes, but this is just talking about the data foundation in a governed data lakehouse. So you need to have access to multiple sources, multiple unified data foundations. So it's not only for one department in the organization. You can do sales, marketing, HR, operations, etc. But at the same time, you can provide support for data integration, data engineering, all the different data aspects that are needed to get the data available for you, right? So now, talking about the path for a successful AI application, these are the typical steps that are needed. And basically like the maturity curve, right, of any type of enterprise data or grounded data that you need to include in your agents. So first, you need to establish a central repository for your data. In this case, that's going to be OneLake, connecting to multiple sources. OneLake is supported by Fabric. Then prepare your data for AI innovation. So you need to do all the data transformation, manipulation to make sure that the data is accurate and trusted. We talked about that as well. And then you are going to create a data agent for your developers, right? And then you start testing the questions and retrieving the data. And after that, you are going to build a custom AI experience grounded with your own data. We are going to see this in the demo, so you can see the entire process ahead in the demo. So what's the technology behind the scenes, right? So that's, as you can see here, we have copilots. So I'm going to show you the different copilots that we have in Fabric and how they interact with Azure AI Foundry, which is the main technology for orchestration and the AI platform for AI. Fabric, which is our data platform. And everything is surrounded, as you see there, by security. Intune for devices, Defender for viruses or any other attacks, Entra for the authentication as well. Microsoft Entra is the new name for the Active Directory in the cloud for Azure. So that's the security and authentication. Purview for data governance, if you want to create data quality, policies, rules, being able to govern your data assets, you use Microsoft Purview. And Sentinel, if you need to monitor your infrastructure, your firewalls, etc. You have all that infrastructure to protect your network, your cloud, and your devices as well. So the integration between Fabric agents and Azure AI Foundry is where the magic truly happens, right? You have AI Foundry that can be used to develop and refine the intelligent models that can power the Fabric data agents, but making them more smart, more adaptable, and more capable of complex reasoning, which is what we want. And real-time data is also critical because, as we saw in the previous example in finance, those transactions, the credit card transactions are going 24/7. So you need to have a mechanism to collect data real time and making decisions real time, because data doesn't stop in a corporation, right? So you have that mechanism to collect the data, consider and choose the best model that supports agents as well. And then once you have your agent trained, you can embed that within Fabric, so you can be asking questions, creating tasks, and optimizing the inventory across a global supply chain or any other type of use cases that you want to implement that, right? By creating the infrastructure that is needed from multiple sources: sales, logistics, weather, identify potential disruptions, etc. Being able to collect that information and being able to test it before you deploy it is critical to really understand the value of retrieving the data with your own corporate data that is available in a data lakehouse or in a data warehouse, right? So that's the interaction that we need. Talking about the demo that I'm going to present. So I'm going to be talking about what's new in the copilots, accelerating the productivity with Copilot in Fabric, one way of interacting or chatting with your own data. That's a feature that is available since early July. So that I am going to show you how to enable that in Fabric. And now you don't need a Fabric F64 capacity to use Copilot within Fabric or Power BI. You can provision a lower capacity with Copilots, which is cool. And then you are going only to pay for the consumption model based on tokens and based on the interaction. So that's one part of the demo. And then the most important piece is how to show you how to build data agents with custom AI solutions, connecting to an enterprise data warehouse, semantic model, Custom DB, and being able to start intelligently asking the Copilot and the agent how to connect to your data assets, and being able to publish that into Azure AI Foundry, where you can create an AI agent that can be leveraged with other agents, which is what we want. Any questions so far? Any other questions?
Nothing in the chat.
Cool.
There is a hand from Victor. Victor?
Hey, Victor.
Are you able to unmute? You are on mute, Victor. Not sure if you're speaking. Okay, so he wrote in the chat. Let me see. Do you need to have Microsoft 365 for Copilot use?
Not within Fabric. So within Fabric, we have our own Copilot that you can enable through the Fabric experience. So I can show you both, but for Fabric, for this demo that you will see, you don't need Microsoft 365. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. Perfect. So now let's build the foundation for the demo, right? So we are going to be connecting with Fabric, Azure AI Foundry, and the possibilities are there, as you can see. You can enhance your data insights. You can ground your AI with your enterprise data, right? So you can have Copilot or ChatGPT grounding on the web, but in this case, you are going to be connecting only to the data that is available in your databases or in your data warehouse, right? So that's the beauty of this use case, because you are grounding a large language model in AI with your own corporate data. Then you can analyze your customer interactions, and then you can customize machine learning if you want. If you want to do predictions based on that data, you can connect that with the Azure machine learning mechanisms as well. So you have a single foundation with Fabric, with data engineering, with data science, with business intelligence, with Power BI, which is available in Fabric, and then having all that magic available in Azure AI Foundry to do the interconnectivity and orchestration that is needed to put this into production, right? Go to the next slide. So that's what we are going to see. Someone was asking where the data is going to reside. So the data, when you start collecting data in Fabric, the data is going to be hosted in OneLake. OneLake is secured and governed by the data governance platform, which is Purview. But then at the same time, you have multiple tool sets that you can use. As I said, you have data science, you have the Fabric data agents that we are going to cover today in the demo, and then machine learning if you want to enhance that with predictive analytics or specific algorithms for machine learning, like forecasting or grouping or clustering. You can do that as well if you have that type of use case in your corporation as well. And the typical AI use cases within Azure. So for example, text to speech, speech to text, all the different Azure capabilities, analyzing content from documents. So you can ingest documents from PDFs, images, videos, sound. You can do translation on the fly. So all those capabilities that are available on Azure, those will be available within the Azure AI search capabilities when you are grounding your models with Azure AI Foundry. Okay, so that's the full set of capabilities. So today you are learning to be a data pro, which is this use case, and you are also learning to be an AI pro and developer. You need those two capabilities to put this demo together and put this use case into production in your company. So you are becoming a data professional and an AI pro developer, and that's what you get by using these two technologies together. OneLake is just the foundation for the data in the cloud. Okay. This is a typical data virtualization. You are reducing the data duplication by virtualizing the data in OneLake. That's the use case that I mentioned before. You don't need to copy the data from Databricks, from Snowflake, and from all these other sources that you see here, like S3 buckets or Google Cloud storage devices, because you have multi-cloud shortcuts and mirroring and OpenAI. Someone asked about APIs, right? So I'm just giving you the overall architecture of how it works. If you have open access APIs, you are connecting to that data set, creating your infrastructure in OneLake. And then once you have that in place, you can start leveraging all the different scenarios in Fabric. As I mentioned before, Power BI, data science, data agents, databases in SQL Server 2025, if you want to do that. But you have the collection of multiple technologies working together as a team to accomplish your common task, which is retrieving data from your enterprise repositories, no matter where they originally reside. So open mirroring is also available. If you have Oracle, that's also an option to get more data, MongoDB, Snowflake, DataStax, etc. So we are really open to multiple providers. We are leveraging the Delta Parquet format in our lakehouse in OneLake. And that's a super fast technology and format to retrieve data in a multi-level infrastructure for data, because you have structured and semi-structured data, and at the same time you have unstructured data that you can analyze across the enterprise: files, pictures, videos, PDF files. So not only everything has to be a table in a SQL Server or Fabric, we can leverage multiple data formats, and that's why we have a common format with Delta Parquet in OneLake, and we also now support for Snowflake, that's Iceberg, the other technology for Delta, and for Parquet files. Okay. Any questions there? No?
Nothing.
Cool. So this is another slide of the same, but we have multiple technologies working together as a team. You have Fabric. So Fabric is the data foundation for our data agents. So a data agent is it's an agent that you create to these four sources that you have here. You can connect to a lakehouse, a warehouse, a semantic model. So if you already invested time in Power BI and you already have your semantic model connecting to multiple sources where you define your business logic, your DAX calculations, your measures, all your joins, that's a great start, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Because you are already leveraging the technology and the infrastructure that you put in place, and the data agent is going to be able to retrieve that data and the logic behind the scenes. So that's a great starting point. And if you have real-time analytics and Costa, that's another source that is supported. You are creating tools, context, and configuration, and then once you publish your data agent, that agent is going to be available in Fabric, Azure OpenAI, Copilot Studio, Teams, or Copilot in Power BI. So you create it once, and then you can deploy it to this Microsoft ecosystem that you see here. Okay. Now, talking about the other component, Azure AI Foundry, we already talked about it, but it will give you the APIs and model of choice. So we are open to multiple APIs, multiple technologies, orchestration tools, etc. We can apply responsible AI, going back to the question we had about legal, right? So responsible AI tools and practices, we support that as well. And we, of course, we support an enterprise-grade production at scale. When you deploy this, as you will see in my demo, you can deploy it to a Kubernetes service and then have that running in a web app that is going to host your model, your questions, and your database for retrieval, your chatbot, or your specific assistant that you are creating with the multiple agents that you have. Okay. How are we doing with time? It's 6:45. Okay, we have plenty of time.
6:45, yes.
Yeah, so we have plenty of time. I think the demo is going to take maybe 30 minutes. So we have plenty of time for Q&A during the demo. Why is Azure AI Foundry important? It supports multiple technologies for developers. As you remember, I told you, you can become a pro AI developer because we have tool sets for Copilot Studio, Visual Studio, if you like coding. This is a pro code environment, right, for AI. Copilot Studio is low code, so it's basically a user interface, but with Azure AI Foundry, you are a pro developer that can leverage Visual Studio, GitHub for CI/CD and DevOps, and then you have the SDK to personalize the code as you wish, right? And as I mentioned before, we have multiple services working together and orchestrated to have this as a reliable platform. We have the Azure AI OpenAI service. All the models for OpenAI are going to be available, like GPT-4 Mini, 4.0, all the different new models from GPT are going to be available, plus others. As you will see in my demo, we have more than 11,000 models that you can leverage, not only from OpenAI. We also have the agent service. We have the content safety if you want to restrict what level of access people have, or the type of wording that is going to be available in the chat. We have filters to prevent that by applying content safety and security, right? And as I mentioned before, we also have the Azure machine learning capabilities. This is the new model that was the agent service that was launched at Build like 2 months ago, which is what we are going to demo as well. That is supported in AI Foundry. This is the service that is going to help you create the development, automation, the different connections with the multiple protocols. And as I mentioned before, in an agentic world, we have multiple protocols for multiple technologies. We have ACP, A2A, you have a flexible model selection and something that can be trusted and it's enterprise ready. So that's what you get by using the AI Foundry agent service. You will see that in my demo. Again, so you have multiple choices. You have Azure OpenAI, ChatGPT 4.0, 4.0 Mini, etc. But you also have models as a service. You can connect to models from Llama, right? From Mistral, Cohere, and all the other providers like Grok from Twitter. All those models will be available for you to start collecting and testing. And then you can have benchmarks, and then you choose. If you don't know what model to choose, we provide like a dashboard of the best performing models for a particular task. And we also have models by industry, as you will see in my demo. And then once you have that, you can create skills or data agents with additional knowledge. You have knowledge from Fabric, which is going to be my demo, connecting AI Foundry agent service to Fabric, but at the same time, I want you to know that we can connect to other technologies like SharePoint, Bing, AI service from Azure. And of course, you want to take actions. So it's not just about retrieving the data from your database. What are you going to do next once you find the data and you get the information from the data? You have OpenAI service, Azure functions, and Logic apps to take action and do the next steps as well. So it's the full enterprise package, right? This is available in public preview. All you have to do is go into the Azure AI Foundry agent service, provision an agent, add knowledge, and then test it in your system or web page. And that's basically what we are going to do in my demo. Okay, this is another example how it works. You will have a user asking for a particular question. In this case, travel booking agent, if you want to get the information about trips, and based on meetings, based on your internal content, is going to retrieve the data from your knowledge sources, right? Get the data, and then using the model to interpret the data, and then take action. In this case, the user wants to book a trip for New York for a client meeting. What's going to be the response? It's, I have booked the trip, and look at your email because it's already booked and it's already paid. So that's the typical use case of agentic AI, taking actions without using human intervention, right? And that's what we have next. That's the demo, right? But this is the typical real customer experience and solution. So this is the components that you will see in an agentic world using Microsoft technology. You will have someone asking someone in a mobile device. You will have APIs, or you can have someone storing data in this case. This is a retail use case where someone is analyzing the store shelf and is going to see that the inventory is low for a particular product when you go to a supermarket, right? So that's the typical agent accessing the database, knowing the inventory, and then Activator, which is available in Fabric, is going to create an alert and is going to trigger what's recommended because we have low inventory in one particular product. Then the dynamic offer autonomous agent is going to collect that information, find the information from the database for the products, and determine what's the best next action or next product that they can recommend. So that's the technology going behind the scenes. You have real-time intelligence, you have databases, OneLake storing the data, and then the agent collecting the information, taking action, right? Because we want to create a discount, because the specific product was not in inventory, we are going to go to the discount model agent. We are going to create a dynamic offer from the agent, and then it's going to search the information from your transactions, your catalog for products, and your offers. That's the typical technology that you need and agents to create the APIs, the instructions, and take actions to respond to the customer. Hey, look, we don't have this available right now, but instead of that, we can offer you 10% discount of this other product. Everything done without human intervention. That's going to be available 24/7 and just retrieving your own inventory of data from transactions, your catalogs, and your offers. So so you have in mind what's needed to put a system like that in production, or at least testing it with your own data. Any questions here before I jump into the actual demo?
Yes, we have Victor asking if he needs to use an AI agent using data in an on-premise enterprise environment due to heavy regulations. Does any of the Microsoft Fabric help me?
Yes, that's a common question that we get. If you need to have like an MCP server for agents, we can connect to a local MCP server, and Foundry will allow you to do that. So Foundry supports MCP servers if you want to do that. And we also have the local service available. So everything that you see here in Azure AI Foundry, it's also available in local. So for those customers that have heavy regulations, we also support this with containers with the local service. Yeah. For Fabric, you can connect to local databases, and you can do it in a secure environment by doing a secure VNet connection. So you don't need to move the data into OneLake. You can connect to the data in real time without moving it from your on premises. So Fabric has mechanisms. One of them is the on-prem data gateway. The other one is connecting via VNets. So your data is going to be secured on-prem. You don't need to move the data to the cloud if you don't want to. Does that answer your question? Yes. Yeah, I see a thumbs up.
Yeah, I do have a question in the slide before. I was trying to understand a little bit about where the agent starts. So I guess, yeah. So I guess the customer makes a prompt, right? Through the application or through an application. Is that what it's? Okay.
Yeah, then, imagine this like this is like a website, right? And someone is purchasing something, and we know that the inventory is low, right? So the website is connecting to the underlying warehouse, right? Location. And then everything is stored in databases behind the scenes, right? The inventory, the catalog of products, the offers. So the agent is running 24/7. And because that inventory is low in stock, right, is going to activate a trigger, an alert to take the next action. And that's why you have a dynamics offer autonomous agent, because that agent is running 24/7, just trying to find offers and agents to retrieve that data when that is needed. In this case, it was based on a particular alert. And then once that happens, once that trigger happens, he knows that the brand A table wanted by Chris is not available, it's out of stock. So it has to determine an action and what's the next step. The rule that they put in the agent is to offer something else and offer a discount so you don't lose the customer. So that's the rule of the agent. Once that trigger is happening and once you get the alert, then it's going to do and invoke the discount model agent to get a discount, to find similar products in the catalog database, right? So get the relevant product agent, that's another agent that is just built for that particular purpose. It's going to connect to the dynamic offer agent and offer a discount and a new product to the customer in the website. Yeah.
Got it. And that icons right there, it's a get relevant products agent and create dynamic agent has like a sort of function symbol. So I guess that specific agent needs to be programmed somehow.
Yes. And I will show you where you do that in the tool set. Yes, that's part of the demo.
Okay, and the discount model symbol, that what is that? Is also another type of function or not?
I think that's another. I don't remember this particular icon. I can take a look. 1 second.
But my question is they are called.
I think it's this one. Yeah, okay. I don't see it here as a typical icon, but those are functions. Maybe in the actual toolset and the UI, I can see what this means. It's probably just coding Python.
Yeah, coding.
I think it's Python.
Code. Yeah. Sounds. Yeah. Looks like. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. Are you guys ready for the demo?
Yay!
Let me switch screens here. 1 second. Do you see my browser? Do you guys see my browser instead of PowerPoint?
Yeah, I see your Azure
Perfect.
homepage.
Awesome. So yes, so this is Microsoft Azure. So I'm going to show you the technology that is behind the scenes to make this happen. So this is my Azure demo portal. That's where I provision Fabric. So I can have as many Fabric capacities as I want. In this case, I have this one that is an F64. It's still up and running. So that's good to know, because normally, since I'm working in regular hours, this one is going to shut down at 6 p.m. So it's already 7. So that's why I came here to see if it's not paused. But you can stop and resume your consumption of Fabric, meaning that you're only going to pay for what you consume on a daily basis if you have a pay-as-you-go model, right? So you can change the size if you want. You can go to the actual details. Let me open that one again. So you can change the size, you can do a quick start, right? Every single instance is going to be available. And as you see, it was already paused. So I can click resume. I'm going to start it again. Good testing point based on the time that we have. Now it's going to be starting. And now I have Fabric available. Besides Fabric, I also have multiple components. As you will see in the website, we have this resource group to make the website go up and running. In this case, I have a container application, container app. I have a container registry, everything to make this web page that I will show you later work. I also have, let me go back here. I also have other resources, right? So I have virtual agents, I have Databricks, I have storage accounts, but that's going to happen behind the scenes. You have logic apps, so you can provision as many items as you want. Azure is going to give you the infrastructure to make this happen, right? So once you have Fabric up and running, you will go to the portal. This is Microsoft Fabric. So in here, you have access to multiple workspaces, right? In this case, I created a workspace for data agents, right? So my workspace, talking about capacity and licensing, my workspace is tied to the F64 capacity that I just restarted. That's the F64 in the Southeast. That's the capacity that is hosting all the work that I'm going to be doing with this demo, right? At the same time, I have an Agentic DB. So this is a lakehouse. So just to show you what's the data behind the scenes, this is the typical lakehouse that you can provision within Fabric. So in Fabric, you have multiple items. You can provision, you can get data by copying the data from multiple sources, right? That's why you have the copy, get data menu. You can mirror the data from multiple providers. One of them is Cosmos DB. I mentioned that we have Azure databases for PostgreSQL, Databricks, SQL databases. So you can mirror the data without copying it, or by just creating like a replica of that specific schema, like you can do with Snowflake. That's also available. SQL Server on-prem, it's also available for mirroring. That's available since last month for testing. You can store the data in a lakehouse. You can create a lakehouse. You can create a data warehouse. You can create a SQL 2025 database inside Fabric if you want to as well. You can prepare the data for all the manipulation that is needed to clean the data if you need to do that. And then you have the data agent, right? You have the data agent for analyze and train the data, but you have multiple options available in Fabric. It's a super powerful platform for all your data needs. And of course, we also have Power BI available. So for this demo, I created a lakehouse. That's what I have here. It's a lake house, as you can see. And then I loaded 3 tables. So this is not a Fabric lesson on how to load data, but just to quickly show you how you can add a new table. It's super easy. If I want to add another table, I can upload files, I can do shortcuts. I'm just going to create one second. It's going to be here. I'm just going to upload, for example, this is, I told you I work in healthcare, so all the data assets that you will see are healthcare related. So we have patients, medications, immunizations or vaccinations, allergy data, claims, etc. So it's in the medical industry. So if you want to add, for example, care plans, you select that one. You can load that particular file. It's going to use my capacity to load the data. Once you have the data as a typical CSV file, you can just upload it, right? You can see the actual data itself, but you can upload it into Fabric. This is going to create a new table in the Delta Parquet format, right? That I mentioned before. So very quickly, you can upload data, you can manipulate it if you have Power Query, if you want to do that. That's using the data flow Gen 2. Data flows Gen 1 from Power BI are also supported. So it's going to load the data, right? So I'm not showing you how to load data, but how to create an agent. So once you have the data, you see, it created a new table here. So that table it's available for me to start analyzing the data. Right, so it's going to preview the data and show it to me, right? The data that I just loaded. Processing the table, and it's going to connect and retrieve it. I just loaded the data, so that's why it takes some time. But this is the typical healthcare information that you can get from HL7 protocols or your typical EMR or electronic medical system. Claims, which is the main driver of the table. I have claim data, the patient ID, I have billable information, the insurance type, allowed and billed amount for the patient, right? So that's the typical use case. I want the agent to connect to this lakehouse and retrieve data using plain natural questions in English without doing any type of modeling. So that's the objective, right? So for that, in my workspace, I create a data agent. So like a good cooking show, I'm going to show you how to do it, and then I'm going to open one that I already created. So we don't waste time creating everything from scratch. But let's say I want to create a data agent. I just search for that. I create a data agent. So in this case, I just need a name. So South Florida demo. You can name it the way you want. It's going to create the agent. And as you will see, it's a very user-friendly interface. As I mentioned to you, you can create up to 5 different sources. All you have to do is add the source. I can connect via Explorer to my multiple workspaces or using OneLake to the recent data that is available in my One Catalog. So as you remember, I told you One Catalog is the foundation for your data source. For your lakehouse, data warehouse, or for any shortcut that you have to the third-party supported vendors that I mentioned before. S3, Google, Snowflake, SQL Server, etc. Right? So, but in this case, I'm connecting to my lakehouse. All I have to do is create a connection. I am going to show you 2 different ways of creating an agent. Right? So one way is connecting to the actual lakehouse. I can add another source. So let's say if I have a data warehouse available, I can connect to that data source and it's going to show up here as well. In this case, I have one single connection. And remember, I just added care plans. That's going to be available for me. So I have the care plan, the description, etc. I'm not going to use that, but I will use claims. if I start with claims, the agent will have access to the actual table inside. I see a yes in the screen by Romel. Yes, no. What's the question there? Romel, you put a comment in the chat trying to follow up, but okay, so if you select the table, then you will have access to that table in the agent. Without doing anything, any type of training, I can ask the agent, what is the allowed by insurance type? Because I'm using the same table, see, without doing any type of training, any type of instructions, the agent is going to connect to my lakehouse, to this table, because I selected that table. That's what it knows so far. So it's going to use a large language model inside the Fabric engine to retrieve that data and give me the answer. You see, I'm just using like a GPT question, but with my data, and it's going to give you the response time, 15 seconds, and it's going to give you the SQL that it used to retrieve that data. So the agent is intelligent enough to create its own SQL, even without giving instructions. So this is the query output and the query that is processed, right? So, but now that was just a simple question, right? If I need to add additional instructions, I can do that. So what's the purpose of that? You are instructing the agent how to behave in this type of interaction. So let's say you can say you are going to be data agent that will retrieve healthcare info from the selected tables, right? So I just gave you one example, but I can add more than one. And then here, you can say, please manner. Right, you can add any type of instruction like your prompt engineering will do, right? Oops. Okay, so that's one way, the agent instruction, and this is important because when you have multiple agents connecting to each other, the instruction that you give the actual agent is important, so the other agents know when to use and where not to use a particular data agent. And then here you have the data source instructions, right? So if I want to be specific, because I have a super complex database or data warehouse, I can say, if you need to join patient or any table, please use the patient here, patient underscore ID column, right? You can keep adding instructions. You see the patient ID, I know this data set is going to be joined by patient ID. I have the patient ID in multiple columns. Another instruction that you can provide is if you want to understand the patient satisfaction when they go to the hospitals or any type of provider that they go to, satisfaction is an average. So you want to, you never want to summarize the average. Please provide always the satisfaction. So you can be very specific on the specific instructions that you want to provide. So that's the way the model is going to behave when you ask a question. So just by doing those couple of instructions, I can just save it. I can minimize this. I can provide examples. If I want to give specific examples, I can also do that. So if I want to be doing performance tuning for my queries, I can import those from a particular JSON file. I created one earlier morning, I have some SQL statements. So for example, if I want to instruct the model how to create the number of patients, I can do that by doing a select count distinct from patient ID from the table XYZ. If you want to know the billed amount for patients by gender, when the gender is female, do this filter. So by just providing a couple of examples, you're instructing the data agent to behave in a way that you want, right? So you can add as many as you want. And another instruction that I want to do is that if you see in my data, F is female and M is male for gender, I can give a specific instruction in the data source. So I can say for gender, the opposite, F is female and is male. You can add as many instructions as you want based on the complexity of your data, right? Once you have that, you can publish the model or you can continue testing it. So if you want to ask, for example, what is the satisfaction by visit type, right? I don't need to be an expert in SQL to build the query. That's what the agent is going to do when you start asking questions. And there you go. See, it's going to explain to you, and you can keep testing and see the accuracy of your model. But you see, it's doing the average because that's what I want. I don't want the total of satisfaction. I want the average per patient. So it's going to get the logic from the metadata and the instructions and retrieve the information for you. Any questions before I continue with the next section? Clear? Easy? Do you like it? Is that what you were looking for?
Any comments?
Cool. So that's crystal clear. But you see the easy of it, right? You don't need to know the relationships. Okay, yeah, you need to know because you are joining two fields. In this case, you're refining the instructions, right? You want accurate data. You test it, you publish it, and then it's ready for consumption. That's one way. Let me just save it and then create another one. The other version of a data agent, the one I mentioned before, is the one that you use a semantic model. So if you have already invested in Power BI and you have a solid semantic model or data set, as it was called before, all you have to do is adding your semantic model. I have a semantic model created for that. I'm going to show it to you in a separate window. Let me open Fabric again. In a separate window, I'm going to show you that semantic model. So I already have a semantic model. You can open the model where I define the relationships. Remember, in the first one, I'm connecting just to the tables in the lakehouse. In this case, I'm going to connect to this, where I already have calculations, joins. I don't need to specify, use the patient ID to join X, Y, and Z, because I already have the logic. Or if you have calculations, all of those are calculated in your semantic model. So you can also leverage the semantic model for that. So if I go back here, I can just use the semantic model, select the tables that I want. So let's say I want claims and patients, right? I can start asking questions about both too. So what is the total billed amount? Remember, I'm asking in plain English. I don't need to know the exact column names. What's the total bill amount by gender? So it has to join those two tables. I never specified the join because I'm using a semantic model, right? So it's going to crawl the information, call the large language model, and there you go. Because it's using the semantic model, you see, it's defining the syntax that is needed to get that value for you. You see, in this case, I didn't even mention female or male. The system is smart enough to know that F is female and M is male. So when you have a semantic model, your foundation is going to be stronger and solid, right? So once you have that, you publish the model and the data agent, and it's going to be available for consumption. Another demo that I want to show you is Copilot for chat for your data. So that's another way of using Copilot. I mentioned to you that you don't need an F64 to use this feature. That's new. So if you are a Power BI user that wants to query the data against a particular report, a particular dashboard, or a semantic model, this is a new feature that is available to you in Fabric. This Copilot button was not available 2-3 weeks ago, so it's brand new. That's why I wanted to show you, because you can start asking questions. So if in the report, in the model, I have something like this. I have a claims Power BI report. In the claims Power BI report, I have this, which is a claims analysis where I have specific questions. You can train Power BI to respond to your agents or to your Copilot. And you have a new feature here called Prepare for AI. I need to go into edit mode. So once you are in edit mode, you can right click and you can set up verified answers. That's brand new as well. You can add as many verified answers for AI. So if you have something that is commonly asked about your data, so for example, what's the total allowed for insurance type, or what's the billed amount by insurance type, you can select the specific visuals that are going to respond in Copilot. And that's what you see here. I selected this visual and this other visual in my verified answer. Once you do that, when you go to this Copilot, here in Fabric, I can ask, what is the total real amount by insurance type? That's a verified answer, right? So the system should know, Copilot should know that that's something that you already instructed your semantic model. So you can choose, where is this going to come from? Is that going to come from the semantic model, from the report? So now, before this option being available, you had to open Power BI, use the Power BI Copilot feature in an F64 or P1, and then ask the Power BI report. In this case, you're asking the entire OneLake to provide the answer. And you can be specific. If you know where the location is, you can add the report, add the semantic model, or the data agent that we just created. And that's why this is so important to know the connection between copilots, data agents, reports, semantic models, because you can leverage all the investment that you have done before. In this case, I want to use the report. So I just select number 2, and it's going to use the report available in my org app that I created with that report. So it's going to go to Power BI using Copilot and get the generated answer for me. So that's the response using a graphic, because I'm using the semantic agent and also what is available in Power BI to respond. So I did it using a data agent connecting to my tables in the Lakehouse, but you can also have Copilot answering the question for you. So for example, I can say, what is the satisfaction by gender? And I can instruct Copilot to use my data agent, and I can choose the one that I created today, the one that I created before, or I can use the one that I published a couple of weeks ago while I was testing this. Let's use that one. That's my claims agent. I can ask that question in that. if the data is not there, because if I don't select the table, then the answer is going to be, I don't know the answer. So if it's not 100% sure that it has the answer, it's not going to respond, right? So that's a good way of troubleshooting the information and making sure that it's only going to respond when it can find solid information. And as you can see, it used my agent, you see, that is available in this workspace, updated with this information. And by the way, you can set up sensitivity labels. In this case, this is highly confidential for all employees, but you can set the sensitivity label of which users will have access to this agent, because not everyone has to have access if you don't want to, right? So that's the response, and then there you go. That was the answer from the agent via Copilot. So very, very cool use case on how you can start leveraging that information. Victor says, I guess it beats Excel or Jupyter if you're creating notebooks. Yeah, super cool technology. Do you like it so far?
Yes. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What if you know, one executive asked, like, what is the total amount of insurance claims billed? How that this person can go? Because I see this very helpful, but what would be like an executive who wants to save time, doesn't want to wait for an analyst to provide this information?
That's a great question, and we have examples like this. If you want information for an executive, you can just say, prepare a summary for my team. This prompt example, right? About something. I can use the agent, I can use the semantic model, or I can use a report. If you already have all that data in your report, I can choose a Power BI report. So you are using Copilot to interact with your assets that are already available in Fabric, in this case, a Power BI report, to create that for your executive, right? So you see how quickly it was? Copilot is generating that for me using the information available in the report. So you're creating a summary of the information that is available, the total bill by insurance type, and it's going to give you the key insights that it found in the data based on the large language model interacting with your own data. So you can start asking as many questions as you want. This is just one example, but you can go and say, show me a metric. So for example, satisfaction, which is one of my KPIs, by observation date, because over time, right? That's the example that you see here. But you can be creative. You can be a prompt engineering asking questions here, but you can be specific on where to get that data. I can do it with the agent or with the report. Let's use the report. Let's try it twice and see the data that we get. In this case, it's leveraging what's available in Power BI. But the agent should be smart enough to collect the data. And you see, there is a data update, but Copilot found the information. That's the satisfaction. You see this because I'm just using a plain report. And when I created the column in Power BI, that's the typical sum, right? Because I never put a rule that satisfaction has to be an average. So now let's ask the question, the same question. Show me satisfaction type of. But now let's use the agent. I don't think in that particular agent, in the sample I have, I think I did it in this one, right? In the first one here. Let's use that one. I don't know if I published that sample or not. If it's not published, it's not going to find it, but let's find out. That's the beauty of a live demo. You see, it needs to be published. So all I have to do is come here, open the agent, and I never publish it. You need to, once you test it and you are sure of the data quality, you have to publish it, right? And you need to put a description so other agents will know when to leverage that. I am not putting a description, but I will just publish it. So you can see the publishing details. And this is going to be super important because we are going to use this, the publishing URL to connect to AI Foundry, which is the next section of the demo. But as I said before, you can add sensitivity labels. And this is a Microsoft environment. So I can say it's public, personal, general, all employees, or a particular set of employees. So you can be applying sensitivity labels and security to your agents so you know who has access to that data agent. So once you publish it there, then I should go back and ask the question again. So satisfaction over time by gender and observation date. But I'm going to use the data agent I just published. Let's see. It should connect to the data agent, get the information. And since I put a rule that satisfaction has to be average, it should respect that. Of course, you need to test it. Remember, we did this in 5 minutes. You really need to test your answers before you publish it and make sure it's there. And voila, you have the satisfaction over time based on the dates that I have by gender and by satisfaction in average. I never said average satisfaction, but since it's in the rule of my agent, it's giving me the average of satisfaction. And it came from my agent. So that's the beauty of the agentic world, right? So think about your organization. You can create an agent that you trust, you test, and you make it available in Fabric, in Teams, in Power BI, and all the different capabilities, Copilot Studio that I show you during the presentation. So the data is there, it's tested, it's trusted by your IT department or your business, and then you can start leveraging that data without creating a report, right, or a dashboard in Power BI.
Yeah, excellent. Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Talking about trusting and trusting the data and all that, I guess you mentioned about OneLake catalog. And is that I guess, the software that would allow you to have those tests, those rules so that the data is clean? But how you know?
Yeah, that's Microsoft Purview. Yeah, we can spend 2 additional hours talking about Purview, but yeah, in a nutshell, Purview will allow you to Purview. Yes, Purview, which is, I have it here. This is Microsoft Purview.
And what's the difference between the catalog, though?
Purview creates a catalog of your different data assets. You have a unified catalog, as you can see. So this is Microsoft Purview. And then you have a unified catalog where you have multiple assets that you can trust. And then you can discover data assets, data products. You can have an enterprise glossary. You can manage your request types, the health of the data quality, if you have controls, rules, actions, observability, etc. And you can connect to multiple assets. You have a data map based on your data sources. So you can add as many sources as you want. In my demo tenant, I'm connecting to Fabric. So Fabric can be one source. You can connect to Databricks, Snowflake, and then you can start creating models and domains to start creating the rules, the data governance, the data lineage. so you know and understand what's coming from where. So that's in a nutshell Purview. You can add many sources, as you can see here, AWS, Synapse, Redshift, buckets, SQL Server, Cosmos DB, Databricks. You can connect to the catalog, but you are only retrieving the metadata from that catalog. DB2 is available. And then once that you have that metadata, you can start creating the relationships, the glossaries, the data quality rules, the data lineage. So you can start applying security and data governance to those data assets, right? That's in a nutshell Purview. But we have a lot of tools. We have a lot of solutions with Purview, auditing, compliance, data loss prevention, so you can monitor who is deleting data if they don't have access to delete, the data lifecycle management, policies, e-discovery, all of that. So
awesome.
It's another platform for data governance that is available for you. Okay, we have 10, 15 more minutes. The next section of the demo is once you create your data agent, you publish it via either semantic model or selecting the tables in the lakehouse or using this copilot. Once you publish it, you have the option of enabling with Azure Data Foundry to start creating the multi-agent orchestration that I mentioned to you during the presentation. So that's the next step, taking it to the next level, right? I have that agent that I mentioned to you that I published before. That's my claims agent. Every agent will have the specific deployment, right? So if you go here to the settings, this is the publishing section. So this is what you need to make this happen. So let me copy this. I will paste it here in a new window so we have it as a reference, right? So it's there, so I can copy paste it after. When you go to Azure AI Foundry, that's what you need. AI Foundry, as I mentioned to you, is the pro developer environment for agents in Azure. So you have access to projects, right? You have access to all the different models that you have for AI. I can show you this. This is the full catalog of models available. As I mentioned to you, we have more than 11,000 models. So here you have everything available for AI. This is, for a developer, this is the best platform because you have access to OpenAI. You have access to all these different collections. Azure, Microsoft, Meta, Mistral, NVIDIA, all the different providers of AI will have models available for you to use. If you don't, as I mentioned before, if you don't know which one to use, we also provide leaderboards, right, based on the specific functions. So OpenAI Azure O3 Pro is one of the best performing ones, but you can see all the different. DeepSeek is number 4. O4 Mini. We are going for our demo. We are using this one. O4 from OpenAI Mini. It's a smaller version. It performs well and it supports data agents. So that's something that you need to know, which models support data agent orchestration. Before you choose something, you need to make sure quality, safety, cost, because they will charge you per token. So you need to know how much it's going to cost to use a particular model, the throughput that you have available, and all the different quality versus cost thresholds and trade-offs that are needed. So you have all of this available in Azure AI Foundry. Once you know the model that you want, you go and select it, right? So that's what I mentioned. If I go back to the collections, capabilities. So if you want which agents support the multi-agent orchestration, these are your multi-agent orchestration. And as I mentioned to you, we're going to use GPT-4 Mini because it's smaller and it's cheaper than GPT-4o. So you can choose the model that you want from this collection. And that's what I did. I created I created a new AI Foundry resource, right? All you have to do is create next. You will put a project name. You see the advanced options if you want to choose your region. So you have multiple worldwide regions where you are going to deploy the infrastructure, the resource group for Azure, the subscription that you want to use, etc. I'm not going to create a project because I already have one, which is this. My default project, which I created in US East 2. This is my subscription. This is my API keys, my endpoints. But again, I have access to the model catalog, right? Everything is available to me here in my project. And you have deployments, the deployment and endpoint. So you know that's the one we are using. I have the GPT-4 mini. I specified X number of endpoints, the number of tokens that I want. This is where I manage the location, the language that I'm going to use. The tokens, I specified 850,000 tokens per minute. That will increase over time depending on the thresholds, the location that you want, etc. Once you have that available, all you have to do is accessing agents. Remember the AI agent that is available now in AI Foundry. That's the user interface that you will get. But before we go there, just to let you know, in AI Foundry, we have access to tracing, monitoring, evaluation, guardrails, and controls if you want to create rules for the AI messages that you get. So you have safety. So this is why people trust Microsoft for using this type of large language models, because we are not just providing you a typical vanilla model like from OpenAI. We support OpenAI and many other technologies, but this is what you get from using Azure as the platform. You get the guardrails and controls, you get the safety and security, that this is on top of Azure in Microsoft, right? The data controls, the agent controls, those are coming soon, for the API references, etc. But you have all the security recommendations, security alerts, content filter, if you want to filter profanity from the GPT responses, all of that, you can control it here in your security, right? You have data files, data governance, etc. So everything in one single location. But going back to the topic about agents, all you have to do is create a new agent. So all you have to do is create an agent, select the deployment, which is the one I have. I can create a new one here, but since I already have one, I'm going to use that one, the GPT-4 mini. And then all you have to do is get the instructions, right? Simple, plain and simple. Get the agent description, right? As I mentioned to you, this is important because agents will talk to agents. So each agent needs to have a solid description. And then the knowledge. So an agent needs knowledge to know what to do with that data. Our demo today is with Fabric, right? Fabric is going to be the main provider of the data. But for other use cases, as I mentioned before, you have access to Azure AI Search to get data from PDF files, from speech to text, from emails, from voice, from notes, from audio, etc. You have all these components available in Azure AI Search. Then you have files if you want to connect to specific files, SharePoint if you use SharePoint, Bing Search, TripAdvisor for get travel data, and they keep adding. This is a work in progress, and they will keep adding more features here. If you want to ground the data from the web, but with a custom filter, right? You can do that with selected web domains. So you are restricting what your users are going to get from the web with this type of grounding. So, but for this demo, we're just connecting to Fabric. And since I already have a connection, I can select it. But if I wanted to create another connection, all you need to do is specify the workspace ID and the artifact. And that's why I copied and pasted that from here. So remember, I pasted this. So the workspace is this piece of the URL. When you copy the the location. This is the workspace. And after AI skills, this is the AI skills value. So when I go back to my agent, the artifact ID is the second part that I show you here. That's the artifact ID. And then the workspace is what is here after workspaces. Hopefully in the future, they make that easier instead of you trying to copy and paste that. But that's what is needed there. And then you put a name to the connection. I'm not going to do it because I already have it. But let me add so I show you. I will show you one that I already created. So for this, I already connected to my Fabric. I can manage it. So you see, I have a SQL agent and I have a semantic agent. All I have to do is click on top of that. And that's where you get the workspace ID. If you want to show it, you can show the workspace ID and the artifact ID. I already did that connection. So once you have that in place, your agent is going to be connecting to that. Let me go back here. Once you have that, that's the knowledge that you have in your agent, right? So before you publish it or make it available, you can test it in a playground. So what's a playground? A playground is like a testing environment to start asking questions like your final users will do. So for example, I can ask the same questions I was testing before. What is the total by gender? But remember, I never asked this question, where the patient lives in Miami-Dade, right? I have that data available in my data set, and I'm going to invoke the agent. So the agent, as you can see here, is looking for references in Fabric to respond. But here I am outside Fabric. Fabric is just one component in my knowledge here, right? So the agent knows that the knowledge base for that is coming from Fabric. And since I have county information in my table, if I go back to the data here, I never mentioned leads, right? But it knows that I have a table for patients with demographics. I never said what's the meaning of living in Miami-Dade, but it knows that it has a column called county. So I have county, I have the country, the zip code, I have the latitude, the state, city, county. I have all these different cities in Florida. See, I have data for Miami-Dade. So it found the data and it knows that the patient lives in Miami-Dade. That's the way I asked it. It's smart enough to know that it needs the county for Miami-Dade, and it responded. And the data is accurate, and it's coming from the data agent that I just created, right? So that's the typical use case. Once you have your data agent available, you can add actions, and that's going back to the question about the coding, Python, etc. What are you going to do next with this data? Let's say if you found that you have low inventory or you have patients that have a specific health problem, and then you have to take action with the agent and modify a database or an alert, then that's when you create an action. And that's the code interpreter. That was the code interpreter that is going to read and interpret information from data sets and generate code and create graphs and charts. That's what that's doing. But you can use OpenAI APIs, Azure Logic apps from Azure to do something else. You can do custom functions and Azure functions as well. So that's what you do next with the agent. And you can also have multiple agents. So I can, in this agent, if I go back to the agent, in this agent, I can have knowledge, actions, and I can add more agents to the agent. So it knows how many agents I have and if I need to do multiple interactions. So connected agents here, if I want to add another agent, let's say I had another agent to retrieve just immunizations or vaccinations to merge that data together. I select that agent and I can link it together using the tools and the specific steps to activate the agent. And then I can have the orchestration to make this work together based on the user interaction. Once that's ready, we have your multiple agents available with multiple sources, multiple actions. Then you can view the code. So let me go back to the agent. 1 second here. Let me go to the agent. Open it in the playground, and then you can view the code. So once you have that, this is the code that you need to make it available in your VS Code, your Visual Studio Code. All you have to do is open it in the code. That's what I did here. That's why I have a session open here. Let me close this. Move this window here. That's what you get, right? So you get the actual code in a DevOps environment if you want to monitor the code, monitor the instructions, right? I can click it and show you how it looks. Let me go back. View code. This will open a VS Code in the browser. You can download the code in VS Code if you want to work in your local browser. So this is going to interpret the agent, setting up the environment, getting the VS Code for web. It's going to take 1 or 2 minutes to process the information. And then you have a pro developer environment where you can start testing your API, your prompts, and then publish this application. That's what I did. Yesterday, I used this code to start the application and make a sample of it in a website. So once you have access to VS Code, you're a developer doing whatever you want with your application, creating web pages or creating the app to support your agent orchestration, right? So setting up the Azure Cloud Shell, setting up the environment, it takes a couple of minutes. Downloading the APIs and the applications that are needed, connecting to Azure, right? Installing the requirements. And once you have that, then you have the code, you have the agent, you have the code to execute the agent, you have the instructions on how to use it, right? If you want to provision this in a web sample database, that's what I did. How to add this web page and use the agent. This is the code that you need. That's what I executed, and I publish it to GitHub. When you publish this to GitHub, this is what you get. If you want to do CI/CD or DevOps, that's the code that you get. And that's what I show you at the beginning. I show you when you deploy it to a web application, this is what you get here. You can see here, I have an agent playground that I updated. And this is what you get. You get a container app environment, a registry, and actually an application that will look like this. In my Fabric agent, it's open running, and you can start testing the application. It's a web application running in containers, almost like a chatbot that you are creating with your UI. You can customize it. You can enable it there, and then you can start asking questions like a typical final UI will look like. So this is not only grounded against my agent. As a matter of fact, this demo is not connecting to that agent, but I can start asking questions. So for example, tell me more about Microsoft and Fabric. That's something that I never trained it about, but this is grounding with the internet, right? Yeah, that AI, that's not. Tell me more about industry. Not sure if the app is up and running. Yeah, but now it found the information. So So it's connecting to the web. So it's grounding the data. It's talking about healthcare claims, all the different type of claims that you have. So you can test your application, your agent with this type of UI that was created by the AI Foundry sample guide and template using the template that you saw here. This template here that is available to you. This is a GitHub repository for samples on how to get started with agents, right? So it used that, it initialized the application. All you have to do is do Azure up, and then if you want to kill all those web apps, you just do ACD down, and it will destroy all those components in Azure. So if you don't want to consume revenue from those services, you can just stop them while you test your final UI, right? So that's how you can get started with agents, UIs, and multiple applications. But all of that is available here in your AI Foundry playground, right? Other topic that I didn't mention is you can have logs. You can monitor who is asking which questions. So if I open a specific deployment, I can see the interaction, the questions that I have, my threads. So I can see everything that is going on. You see by date. I can see threads by date. I can analyze what's going on, the messages, all the different prompts that is asking about claims. I can go back to other thread, see something from earlier. You see total build amount by gender. Everything can be monitored in the observability and also in the monitoring and tracing. So you can do and check how your model is performing. You have dashboards, you have multiple capabilities. I don't have logging enabled, but that's something that you can do by date. If you want to see the history, I don't have any history in this one, but you can query your data, your multiple data sources to monitor the performance of your applications. As you can see here, everything is at 0 because I don't have that enabled, but that's how you evaluate the metrics, the trend lines, and the total calls, the call duration, the status, etc. So all of that is available in the same platform. So that's the demo in a nutshell. I hope you liked it and you can start using it if you have access to Fabric, OpenAI. All of this is available by using Fabric and ai.azure.com, and that's the AI Foundry. You can start working, as I said, with samples that are available in GitHub and start playing with the information in Azure and start testing your agents. So, Cecilia, back to you if you have any closing comments, questions.
No, I just want to say thank you